beautiful friends and my fellow sparkly space blobs, or whatever form you are feeling. Let yourself describe yourself however you want in whatever beautiful, magical form connects with you. I'm so interested in that. What brings you to life when you think about how you want to describe yourself and your presence in the world? I think that's such a powerful way to connect with ourselves. And we are sitting down today to talk about the Sagittarius New Moon happening on December 12th, right in the heart of Sagittarius season. This is such an interesting, nuanced new moon, and it's our final new moon of 2023. A really, really great place of coming home and really seeing ourselves and how we're changing. If you watched my December intuitive notes conversation, you will know I mentioned that there is this thing going on right now in the world and amongst a lot of the people I've been talking to. There is this feeling of mystery. Like the world is changing very rapidly and in interesting ways, and each of us is changing in really interesting ways. And what is that going to lead to? What is this next version of the world going to look like? Nobody really completely knows quite yet. There's all these ingredients that are in this mysterious stage. We're working with the bigness of Saturn in Pisces and this kind of question in the air. And I think this Sagittarius season is really holding us in that, in a way that is really loving, really tender, really beautiful. And this new moon is doing that as well. But it's also asking us some really important questions that I think will inform understanding ourselves and how we are going to move into a new world. Not how in the sense of the logistics and the checklists, but how in the sense of our energetic understanding of ourselves. So let's talk about this. This Sagittarius new moon happens with the sun and moon at 20 degrees of Sagittarius. And the big conversation that's going on here is a quincunx. That's something that we haven't talked about here for a little while. But the quincunx is happening with Uranus in Taurus at 19 degrees. Now, quincunxes are really interesting because they pair different energies that we normally wouldn't think of as fitting into the same category. So in this case, we've got mutable fire and fixed earth. And that means that these are two totally different modalities of how we move through life. So when they're in conversation, it's a really beautiful opportunity to work with parts of ourselves that we might feel are disparate, out of communication, out of sync, or possibly at cross purposes. Unlike, let's say, an opposition or a square that is trying to resolve maybe a tension that's very direct and we can see it. A quincunx is much more about understanding that we hold many different elements within ourselves. And it's not always about dissolving the tension or dissolving the different parts of ourselves and getting everybody back into the same form. It's much more about acknowledging that anything that we do in this life, any way that we move through it, is going to contain different aspects of ourselves. And we've got to find a way to allow all of those aspects to work together. So let's talk about this. It's a really interesting combo, actually, because of course, Uranus is the change maker. This is an energy that wants to put things on their side, see what happens, open new doorways, does not want to keep the status quo going. How do we change and revolutionize things? However, it's been sitting here in Taurus for many years at this point, and we're really working through that journey. And with Taurus, for me, it's how do we create sustainable, meaningful change that honors our bodies, that honors our spirits, that honors the rhythm in which we create things. So there's still this stability to that Taurus influence when we're talking about Uranus. So this is what's interesting, though, about Uranus being in a fixed sign. The questions that come up there, and they've been coming up for a long time, but I think they're highlighted here in this Sagittarius new moon, is what is longing to change? What have you been holding on to for a really long time? And it's scary to let go of, but you also know that you're kind of ready. What are you longing to leave, to quit, to stop doing? What are you ready to let go of? What are you resisting changing? This is a question I think about a lot. I know personally I am changing in huge ways. Just sitting here in this space, I like changing it up and trying different things and not holding on to the shape that I held back in 2018, for example. I'm not the same person whatsoever sitting here talking about the new moon in Sagittarius as I was in December 2018. And so how am I resisting, though, the different ways I could express myself? That's a big question that I'm contending with, I would say, right now in my life, and very scared by, very terrified, scared of change, scared of failure. All of that is coming up. And I think that Uranus and Taurus here is highlighting that. It's highlighting those tense places in ourselves that are longing for change and also feeling a bit rigid and scared of change. So that's getting highlighted here. And then the quincunx conversation brings in the other element. And like I said, this is not about an opposition. So this is not about forcing these two things to resolve and change. It's about honoring that they are both going to exist in the process of living a life, and that we have to accept that. So the sun and moon in Sagittarius here, in the heart of Sagittarius season, are asking, what is calling to you? Because Sagittarius energy is very much about free spirit energy. If you know some Sages in your life, I definitely do. I'm a Sag rising and I feel very connected to that. You'll know that energy is very much about seeing what happens if we just step over there, if we just leave the safety of the pasture and run free and wild. There is a wildness to Sagittarius energy, which is a really important foundational element of Sagittarius. And mutable fire, right? Mutable fire is going to flow where it wants to flow. So what is calling to you? What is longing for expression? What is longing for you to acknowledge, like, hey, I'm ready. I want to be expressed and experienced. The mutable wild self is longing for something, is longing to reach out to share, is longing to give back to the world, is longing to heal the world, is longing to do all of these things. And like I said, our goal here during this new moon is not to collapse this down and have them be just there together in peace. They can be at peace, but they don't need to change. They don't need to suddenly go away. They don't need to resolve into something new. They can just both be there. You can both be resisting your change with everything you have in you and knowing that it's there and feeling the call of it and feeling it in your body and still be not ready to change, and have this part of you that's just already 10 steps ahead and is ready to change and has already thought it through and is just ready to go. You can just have them both. You can have them both. But I think what is interesting is letting these two communicate. I'm going to be doing an activation, a visualization, a journaling journey over on my Patreon if you're interested, where I'm going to be helping us walk through that. How do we hold both the deeply resistant self and the wild self all at once? How do we live in a system that has both of these energies running so strongly? But some questions you could ask right now are, what am I gaining by holding on? A lot of times that resistant self is gaining something, whether that be familiarity or a sense of control or something, or sometimes a really practical thing too. Like it could be something that has to do with stability, right? And so that's why it's important not to feel like we need to get rid of this part of ourselves. So what are we gaining by holding on? What are we losing by letting ourselves change? If we go with the wild self, we're going to be losing something, right? So there's a legitimate part of ourselves that's like, I'm going to be losing these things over here. It's just helpful to think about that. What is it that we're afraid of losing? What is it that we're needing to hold on to? And just feeling that, there doesn't have to be pressure for it to change. And then the other side of it, listening to that wild howl that we have inside of ourselves that's ready for a shift, and noticing how vulnerable it is to feel that wild howl. How there isn't a sense of control with it. There isn't a sense of resolution with it. There is a sense of it being unknowable, that unimaginable horizon that I will often chat about here in this space, and how that feels for you, and what we don't know about it, and what we might be curious about knowing. Just sitting with these two things is going to be so powerful during the Sagittarius new moon, this last new moon of 2023. I think one of the things that I've been thinking about a lot with this idea of a new year is that it's not so much about creating goals and things that we have to chase after, our future self and who we think we need to be. It's like, how do we bring ourselves? How do we bring ourselves into this year? How do we just bring who and what and where we are with ourselves into the new year? And I think this conversation is where it's at. Acknowledging, like, I'm resisting the hell out of the mystery right now. I do not want to necessarily have to be moving through this creative mystery right now. I want the stability. I want the familiarity. And also to be like, I am so ready for my whole world to change and to just do something unexpected and out of the ordinary. I think that allows our real selves to come rather than the goal self, rather than the manifesting self. What ingredients do we have now? There's one other gentle theme I just wanted to throw in here for this new moon. And it's happening kind of on the side here. It's a very gentle square with Neptune in Pisces. So that's going to be at 24 degrees of Pisces. So it's a very loose square to this new moon. It's not the strongest influence, but it is twinkling on the edges of the conversation. And that gentle square is asking you about your intuition and your dreaming self and your energetic self. What is also glimmering on the edges of your vision? You know, and this is beyond the wild howl and the resistant self. This is, that glimmer kind of comes from the bigger spirit life of the world energy. And this can also be really helpful to check in with, because we can get locked in the dissonance between the resistant self and the wild self and spend a lot of time there kind of going through it. But this kind of glimmering from the large spirit can be very helpful, because it might be the place where we're getting some of our best directions as far as how to move through this new moon, the rest of this December, and into the new year. So that is there. There are things that are ready to be heard and ready for us to listen to. And this is a really great new moon for listening. And I tell you what, anytime there's a moon in Sag, whether it be full or new, it is one of the most honest energies you'll work with. You know, it's interested in what is true. You know, truth has legs. It's going to be the final one standing. And I think that's one of my favorite things about Sagittarian energy. It's such a relief to say what is true and to feel what is true. And it doesn't have to be about striving. It doesn't have to be about dreaming and manifesting our board. It's about just hearing our spirit and our wild howl and our resistance and all of those ingredients that make up a magical life. Let's get into the cards, because I could just chat about this type of magic for a long time. I couldn't resist. I've just been in a mood this December. We're working with the Cat Tarot again. I love it. And it just brings a smile to my face. So that's why. That's the sole reason it feels right. So let's pull a couple of cards. I think I'm going to keep it simple with 2 today. I love the number 2. It's one of my favorite numbers. There's something so beautiful about it. And because we're working with this quincunx, we have these two ways of being: fixed earth, mutable fire. How do we hold both in ourselves? We do. Each of us does. You know, each of us holds that and those energetic qualities in ourselves. King of Pentacles. I love it. I love this particular card. He's enjoying the tuna in the jar, having a good time. All right. There's very much that Taurian kind of fixed earth energy. King of Pentacles is connected to Taurus. And that determination, that long game energy. And then we have the 10 of Wands. Oh, that is so interesting. Yeah, I mean, that's it, right? That's the quincunx right there in a way. So, you know, the King of Pentacles I've always loved, because I think this is a very valuable energy, especially in this world of very quick technology and intensity. Because the King of Pentacles is like anything that is of beauty and value in our lives and in making something in a life is going to take time. Whenever we're working with earth energy, we're working with the logic of natural processes. And some of those processes are very slow. Time takes on a different role in the natural world. It's not about immediate results. It's not about waking up in January and having goals, right? It's about something that might take many years to form and be seen by the world. And I think that's the beauty of both the resistant self and Uranus and Taurus. There's an acknowledgement here that the resistant self isn't always just stuck on the past. The resistant self might also be saying that things that are really valuable to you are going to take time, and we cannot rush them or force them. We must work with what we have here and now and allow things to move slowly. So there's a self-honoring here of the process, of the fact that we're human animals, that we live in bodies, that we experience the world through the body, that we experience being part of the natural world, and that is part of the mystery at this time. So take it easy. If you're having big visions coming in, yes, we're going to have to work through King of Pentacles energy. And then we have 10 of Wands. In this case, we have a cat who's a little bit overwhelmed by the amount of toys they are surrounded by. And the classic 10 of Wands is an image of a person carrying a giant bundle of oversized staffs on his back and clearly struggling, clearly weighed down by these expectations. And that makes me think about the wild howl of Sagittarius, actually, because the Sagittarius New Moon specifically, because part of the wild howl is this readiness to put down expectations, roles, the drudgery of what we've come up with for ourselves as far as who we are and who we need to be and how it needs to be in the world, the longing and the readiness to release what we're carrying around heavily. I think the wild howl can be equal parts dreaming and thinking of the next thing and realizing I don't want to do this anymore. And I do think that's part of the honesty of this new moon. And it's a great place to just sit and feel, where are you feeling the exhaustion? Where are you feeling the heaviness? Where are you feeling the density? Like you're slogging through really deep mud and muck, just like all we need to do there is just acknowledge that it's there, instead of pretending like it's not, like there are just some times when there's a project or an identity or a way we do our hair or a piece of clothing that we just cannot trudge through anymore. And that's equally part of the wild howl of this new moon. I'm really intrigued and curious about how it's going to feel when we're actually sitting through it. And like I said, I will be doing that journaling exploration about this whole idea of resistance and openness on my Patreon if you are looking for support. We're also doing the Gentle New Year, which is beginning on the 20th of December. I can't wait. It's going to be 4 sessions over 4 weeks that lead us into the new year. And the reason I'm doing it is because I have always struggled with the way New Year energetics are discussed, expressed, described. I need something different. So I created something that I think is very nourishing soul food. And it's for anybody who is a sensitive like me, anybody who wants to redefine the way they work with this kind of threshold energy. It is going to be so beautiful and really supportive. There will be rituals, there'll be journaling. There will just be listening to me with a cup of tea and feeling soothed and relaxed and supported on the mysterious journey of being a person here. So I'd love to see you for all of that over on Patreon. And it's a really great way that I can keep showing up here to do this work. Of course, you can find me on Instagram from time to time, as well as here. We have so many more beautiful conversations coming up. Like there are so many ideas, interviews, conversations that I am very excited to bring you. So be sure to subscribe and like this video because I really am bringing some new energetics into this space and I can't wait to share that with you. I'm sending you all so much love. Have a beautiful Sagittarius new moon. Make sure to share this with some people that you love in your life. If they are moving through the mystery, I am in your corner. I am in every sensitive spirit's corner that is moving through the mystery. And I will see you next time for another beautiful chat. Talk to you soon.